Hello, everyone. So if you don't know me, my name is Michele, and I have my doctorate in physical therapy, and I do online personal training and health coaching, mostly with women working on a sustainable way to get healthy and lose weight and actually keep it off. So today I have a guest speaker here, and we're going to be talking about picky eaters. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Hi, I'm Tricia Clark. I'm a cooking coach and kitchen mentor, and my focus is really all about making cooking fun and approachable, and really helping moms reduce the stress and overwhelm so that they can create more connection and conversation around the table. Because to me, I feel like that's where the magic happens. It's less about the food and more about the energy that you bring to the table that really curates those conversations and those lifetime memories that we have from around the table.
Yeah, absolutely. So tell us a little bit about your family, a little bit about your history and how you got started in this.
Yeah, so I am a married mom of two. My kids are now 18 and 23. I'm recently an empty nester, but I've worked in corporate America my whole life, and just, getting married and having kids and realizing I didn't have any domestic skills whatsoever. All of a sudden, I have to feed these people, and I had no idea what to do. And so 25 years ago, we didn't have Pinterest and food blogs and, all the resources we have today. So I did what anybody else on maternity leave would do. I binge watched Food Network and decided that's what cooking needed to be, and created these stupid, unrealistic expectations for myself, and couldn't figure out why everybody hated sitting down at dinner. Like, my friends love my food. Why doesn't my family? And it took me a long time to figure out that I was the problem and not them. And so it was really that I was trying to live up to some sort of expectation. And it's really interesting that this is where I am today, because I grew up an extremely picky eater. If it wasn't in a box or frozen, I wouldn't eat it. And I'm going to say my mother never made me. I'm not in the camp of make anybody do anything, but it just wasn't. I think because I was the youngest of four, it was kind of like, oh, she'll figure it out. But it took me years to figure that out. And then I really wanted my kids to eat differently than I did. So through this whole process, I decided I fell in love with cooking somewhere along the way. And I found easier ways to make it happen after a long day at work, and ways to spur the conversation at the table. And along the way, figured out, but I had a real knack for breaking it down and simplifying it, and making it really approachable, and decided about a year ago that it was time to turn that passion into a business so that I could help people on a larger scale than just my friends.
Yeah, I love that. And I love how you started as a picky eater or really limited diet yourself. So probably in my group here, we have two people that have like the kids that are picky eaters, but people that are also picky themselves or just have a really limited diet. So which topic do you want to start with first?
Ooh, let's start with adults, because
Okay.
I think it feeds into the kids conversation. I really do.
Yeah. All right. So I definitely have clients who maybe texture, like someone doesn't like soup or someone doesn't like raw vegetables, or they really just haven't tried things, or they've just stuck with what they've known. So what tips do you have for them?
So, so much of that stems from childhood. And I see and talk to so many different people that are from the gamut of, I don't like my food touching, everything has its place on a plate. And we're talking adults here, I'm not talking kids. To, oh, I don't like that texture, I can't do it, similar to what you're talking about. Or I don't eat vegetables. Or my parents or my grandparents made me clean my plate when I was a kid, and that has stuck with me. Or I was told I had to, my mother used to tell me, because she grew up in the 40s and her parents grew up in the Depression, and her father would tell her, you have to eat another piece of bread before you can have another piece of meat, because meat was so expensive.
Mm.
And so these things start so early in our lives, and they just perpetuate, right? And before you know it, you're an adult going, oh, I've got the palate of a 5-year-old, right? And I have a friend who describes herself that way. It's hilarious. Um, and so I think those things start very, very young, as it did for me. And what I see a lot is the way they grew up being fed those foods, let's say vegetables, for example, were canned, right? So the texture they're familiar with is very soggy and soft and mushy. And so they're very sensitive to that. And so for those people, what I like to encourage them to do is try roasting a vegetable instead of steaming, or using a frozen bag of vegetables in the microwave. Like, kind of approach it from a playful place of experimentation, but try roasting vegetables, because then you have texture, you have crunch, and you also have a sweetness that comes out when you roast vegetables that you don't get in any other method of cooking. And so really to experiment, because you never know, one, when your tastes are going to change, but it could very well have been the way you were raised and how it was prepared and what you were used to. So like, I hate canned green beans. My husband loves canned green beans because that's what he grew up with. It reminds him of home. I hate them. My son hates fresh green beans because they squeak. So I've had to deal with all of these things in my house. And so it really comes back to experimentation. And then if you're a parent, if you're a picky eater and you're a parent, you need to ask yourself, what do you want their relationship with food to be? And are you willing to take the bold step to experiment and try foods that you hated before and just, you know what, play with it? One of the favorite things we've always done in our house is a 3-bite rule. I'm not a clean your plate club. I'm not a, you have to clean your plate or eat your veggies before you can have dessert. I don't believe in bribes. I don't believe in hiding it. It's really about just try it. And I want you to eat 3 bites. The first one you're anticipating you're going to hate it. The second one you're like, maybe. And the third, and this goes for adults too. I've seen it. And third is, oh, that is pretty good. Or no, I really don't like it. But then remember, don't rule out the food, rule out the way it was prepared and try again. But if you're a picky eater and you have kids that are growing up as picky eaters because that's the environment you're used to, maybe you make it a playful experiment together and say, today we're both going to try 3 bites of fresh green beans and see who can finish the 3 bites first. Yeah. Right? Like, make it more fun. It doesn't have to be this dreaded, scary, overwhelming thing.
Yeah, I love that. And especially thinking about all the different ways you can eat stuff, like carrots. You can eat them raw. You can steam them and they sort of get a little soggy, but some people might like that. And you can even air fry them or bake them in the oven. And they're totally different. So that is a great idea. If you don't like a vegetable one way, try it a different way, because it really is different. And the way you can season it and all of that too.
Yeah.
And I loved how you talked about not cleaning your plate. So for some people, they may not be picky eaters, but I've definitely heard from people like my husband is sort of like that. Like he feels like he has to clean his plate, or for like at a restaurant, he needs to clean everybody's plate. Yeah. But just having that rule of trying stuff and that mindset of like, you don't have to finish your plate, going back to like listening to your body and tuning in. So yeah, I think those are great tips. And I think starting with the adult is so important, because as the parent or the adult in the house, we are the leaders and we all want our kids to be healthy and have good habits, because these habits we create when they're in our house is how they're going to go out into the world. And they may change as they get older, but all you can do is give them that good foundation and that awareness of different foods.
Yes, and they're more apt to do what you do than do what you say. And so modeling that behavior, I think, is huge. And so what I'll say along with that is knowing what my son has a serious gag reflex when it comes to zucchini and squash, absolutely despises it. And so I keep trying to cook it. I keep trying to make it different ways just to see what he'll eat and what he won't. We've tried it spiralized and raw on a salad. We've tried it grilled and crunchy. We've tried it raw in a veggie tray. We've tried it steamed, roasted. The kid hates zucchini. I'm never going to change it. I'm done fighting that battle. But does it mean that I don't cook zucchini and put it on his plate? No. I cook. I'm not a short order cook. I cook what I'm cooking, and I make an effort to make sure there's something I know he loves on the plate or she loves on the plate for my daughter. I make sure there's something that I know they'll eat that's on the healthier side. And then that third thing, like, I cook for me as well as I cook for my family and my friends. And so I don't cook anything that I don't enjoy or that I won't eat for the most part. And so it's really about making sure that they're seen and that they're heard. It's not being forced. It's that I hear you, let's try something else. And if all else fails and you just hate it, I'm going to put it on your plate, because our tastes change so much as we grow and as we age, that I think it's important to continue to try. And so we've just always kind of had that attitude and that rule in our house. And, my nieces and nephews come over and they know, like, if they come to Aunt Tricia's house, we've got to do the 3-bite rule. And the fights that they will give their parents on foods, and they'll come over to my house and I'll cook the same thing and they'll eat it and they'll love it. It's so hilarious. They're like, I'm never eating an artichoke. Then they're like, when can we come back over for ribs and artichokes? Like, it's so funny what happens when you change the expectation.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Sort of setting that rule and sort of pre-deciding as a family what that rule is going to be, what that expectation is, and following through with that. And also, you mentioned not being a short order cook. And we talked about this before. Like, I don't make separate meals for my families either. And I don't think people should. So, because we need to save time. We don't have a lot of time and we can't make someone else a meal and make a whole different meal, but you can do those a little different. So maybe if we're having like barbecue chicken, my kids might eat that on a bun. I don't eat gluten, so I might eat that on a salad, or I might have rice or something that's prepped. So having that same base meal, but you can do a little different things. You can have a little different sides, but you need to keep it simple, because the most important thing is that you keep eating healthy and that you are meal planning and that you are cooking and you are eating together and it feels good. It doesn't feel like a chore.
Exactly. So my husband has been doing like the keto low carb thing, and my body can't process that. And so we'll cook, let's say steak or burgers or taco meat or whatever. And he'll have his favorite keto buns and his mayo and full fat, whatever. And I'll have, either a salad or a normal bun, and it's actually kind of fun when you lay out, meals that way. I call them kind of like build your own, because it does allow everybody to come in and create their own plate. And what I find is that they're more encouraged to try something new if it's out and presented to them, versus being told you have to put that on your plate. So one of our favorite things to do is a pizza bar. And we have cauliflower crust and regular crust, and I put out artichokes and olives and sausage and pepperoni, and everybody just comes in and we make them small. And so everybody can come in and top their own pizza. And it's one of our favorite ways to host a party. It's one of our favorite ways to do family dinner.
Yeah, I love that idea. And especially for people with allergies, my one son can't have dairy. So that's like, a lot of times we never make a meal where it has to contain dairy, but there may be something where we put cheese on top or something like that. Yeah. But yeah, that's a great way to look at it and to make the mealtime fun. So do you have any more tips for kids who are picky?
Get them involved in the kitchen, quite honestly. I mean, kids as young as 3 can come in and help with simple tasks. So even it's as simple as come in and stir this for me, or maybe it's just, can you get the carrots and get these vegetables out of the refrigerator for me, right? The more they're involved in the process, because they have pride and ownership in it, the more likely they are to try the foods that you're cooking, because they made it too. And then it requires a whole lot less conversation and effort on your part to get them to eat those things that they're normally picky about, right?
Yeah.
The other thing I would say is take their very favorites. Every kid loves mac and cheese, right? Obviously, unless you can't have dairy, but take your mac and cheese, and maybe one time you chop up some broccoli and you mix it up in it and some chicken. Maybe another time you take some, like a chicken apple sausage or a Cajun sausage and slice that up and put that in, and some green peas in your mac and cheese. Like, try incorporating those things in different ways. It's not about hiding it. It's just more about incorporating it so it's less noticeable. It's not front and center as an issue. One of my favorite recipes is from Pampered Chef, and I'll find it and I'll share it with you. But make your own chicken nuggets, but they use chopped broccoli actually in the crust.
Oh.
And so you're getting some of those nutrients. And if all else fails, and this is a plug for Pampered Chef, because I've sold Pampered Chef in the past, but I love their products. But one of the things that I use in my own house is they have a line of pea protein, super veggie, and then kale and fiber. And so one is to add more veggie nutrients to the meals, especially for those picky eaters, or let's say texture sensitive. It may not even be that, like, I don't want to eat it. Maybe they can't. The pea protein is great for amping up the protein levels in mac and cheese. And then the kale and fiber is to add more fiber. So you can add some of those vegetable nutrients from kale and the fiber from chicory into like making brownies, right? It's not about changing your whole lifestyle all the time. It's just about finding different ways that work. And there are real instances where it's not a matter of a picky eater, but it's a matter of restriction. Or my son can't eat he can hardly eat any raw vegetables because he has an oral allergy to them. He's fine if they're cooked. And so there are true issues out there that you can't work your way around, but there are ways to make sure that your family still gets those nutrients. So whether it's from Pampered Chef or somewhere else, there are supplements out there that are a great way to make sure that you're at least getting the nutrients in your family's meals.
Yeah, I love that. Just the idea of boosting something you're eating, boosting that nutritional value. I remember a long time ago, 10 years ago, there was like the Sneaky Cook recipe
Yeah, it
book.
was Jerry Seinfeld's wife.
Yeah. And there was a lot of like pureeing some vegetables and putting it in stuff, and you don't even notice it. So yeah, finding those different ways to sneak it in if you are really stuck with a picky kid or someone who doesn't like the texture or doesn't like something. I think that is
butternut
great.
squash puree is so good in mac and cheese. You don't even notice it's there. It's the same color. It just blends right in and adds so much nutritional value.
Yeah, and I bet it adds, I haven't had that, but I bet it adds a little sweetness too.
It does.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which most kids love.
Yeah. So let me know if there's any more tips, and then maybe give your favorite healthy recipe for a family.
Oh, goodness. My favorite healthy recipe for a family. I mean, healthy means something different to everyone. That's so hard for me.
That we'll say that has vegetables in it.
That has vegetables in it. One of my favorites is a 5-ingredient antipasto salad. You take cheese-filled tortellini, some chopped salami, and you add cucumbers and tomatoes and an Italian dressing. And so the kids get their pasta, but you get to mix all of those veggies into that salad. And it's just a simple Italian dressing. And you can add black olives if you want to. Like, you can really get creative in terms of the Mediterranean feel and how many vegetables you want to add, but it's super simple, super tasty. Takes like 10. I mean, you gotta boil the pasta. Other than that, while the pasta boils, you chop your vegetables, you mix it all together. It just doesn't get.
Do you eat that cold or warm?
Either one.
Okay. Yeah. That's a great one to prep and then have for lunch or something too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Perfect. All right. Well, tell us a little bit more about how people can connect with you and what you offer.
Yeah. So the best place to connect with me and where I hang out the most is on Facebook. You can find me at Tricia Clark for my personal feed, but I do have a Facebook group for stressed and overwhelmed moms trying to figure out how to make all this work, called Tired to Inspired Cooking. And in there, I share my weekly meal plan as inspiration. I do a cooking lesson each week. I share recipes. I talk about ways to spark the conversation at the table, all kinds of fun stuff. And then we do master classes, every month or every other month or so. So Tired to Inspired Cooking, pop in there if you want to hang out and see more of what I'm all about. And then you can always find me at triciasbitesoflife@gmail.com.
Perfect. I love that. And I also love how you incorporate conversation, because I think a lot of times we get so busy, or especially when kids are little, dinner's just stressful, but really finding ways to connect with our kids and connect with our family is helpful. And the more we can be in that rest and digest state while we're eating, the better our digestion's going to work and the better we're going to feel. So
yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So thank you so much for being here today. I will put some links down in the comments. If you guys have any questions, just reach out to us.
Yeah, one more tidbit I forgot to mention. I am having a free masterclass Wednesday night. It's only Monday. Wednesday night, that's called Holiday Meal Planning Hacks. So I'm going to walk you through my meal planning process, give you some tips and tricks and menu ideas for the holidays, just how to manage those weekly night meals through the holidays. And we're also going to talk about how to shift some of those awkward conversations that happen, with those big family get-togethers. And so it's free. If you pop in the Facebook group or on my personal feed, the links are there, but come join us. It's free. It's going to be fun. It's going to be about an hour. And then when we're done going through the masterclass, I'm going to stay on for an extra hour for any live coaching and questions that anybody has. So by all means, please join us.
Yeah, definitely. That's awesome. All right. So everyone have a great day.
Thank you.